finding it hard to not let work stress take over my life. Any tips appreciated?
Oh yeah, and my ladies like are probably struggling with this a lot as well at the moment. Probably everyone is.
Yeah.
Um, like you've gone from working at home to then going back into the office and trying to like deal with all those dynamics. I think that's really hard.
Yeah.
I'm just sort of making sure that they try not to like take their work home with them. And if they're still working at home, again, to like set clear boundaries
Mm.
between what you do at home, what is actually work, trying not to let it come with you. Really, for a lot of mine, 'cause obviously my ladies are menopausal, so this is a big one for like triggering headaches and
Mm.
anxiety, big ones. So making sure that they're doing self-care in the evenings. And that can be simple as like having a bath,
Yeah.
really, really simple, or just going off for a few minutes to deal with it. But yeah, I think that's a really hard one that a lot of people struggle with.
Yeah, and like you say, I think working from home as well. I had a client who finished, she was with me for like just over a year. So like literally through the whole pandemic. And, she was struggling to kind of switch off at like 6 p.m. and,
Yeah.
trying to get a routine going. And like, it's hard. I mean, it really depends what your job is. So like our job, it's like, there's never really like an on and an off. Like there's just not, like the lines are a
Yeah.
little bit blurry. So we've got to set our own boundaries. So if your job is a little bit like that, where the lines are a little bit blurry, just try and like get some time off for you personally, wherever that might be. And I'm the same as you. I say to my clients, even if you get 10 minutes a day, I said to someone on a check-in this morning, like if it's 10 minutes in the morning, get up a bit earlier or go to bed 10 minutes earlier and just sit in the room on your own for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. And like I say, it's getting those lines right. And if you're working at home, it can be a little bit tough. But if you finish at 6 p.m., just shut that laptop, walk away, or whatever time you finish. And
Yeah.
it's just that thing of just trying to get away. And it's hard to not bring it home with you. Again, it depends what your job is. If people care, the dog wants to come in. If people care about the job, then they're going to bring it home to a certain extent, because that's just what you do. Even
Yeah.
when I worked in bars and restaurants, you still kind of take some stress home with you. So it's about having that boundary and
Yeah.
just trying to create that boundary.
Yeah, and I said the same thing to a lady who said that like one of my ladies struggling like getting a little bit of time just for her in. And I said the same thing to her, that like when you say to yourself, oh well, I'll find 30 minutes for myself, you go in with that like all or nothing mentality of like,
Yeah.
well, you could just find 2 minutes. And I like, my example was like, go and watch the birds eat off the bird feeder.
Yeah.
But you couldn't find 2 minutes with a cup of tea to just
Yeah.
go and have a moment on your own. But because we label like having time for ourselves as needing to have like a half hour or an hour or something like
Mm-hmm.
this, you end up, because you can't achieve that thing, you don't achieve any of it.
Yeah. And like
And
you say, just a cup of coffee or a cup of tea,
yeah,
the time it takes you to drink that.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's just like not forgetting you. And I definitely think clear boundaries, really trying to just say, okay, well, this is work me and this is home me, and they have to have a line. Otherwise, you're going to smash them together and it's going to bleed into everything, your relationships, your sleep, your stress, just everything that you're trying to do. So, yeah.
And I think this will be a bit
Okay.
controversial, and I've said it to a few of my clients: get a different job. And so many people are kind of attached to their job and what they do. And it's like, it's not a case of just changing jobs. Like you can still do exactly the same job, but for a different company. A
Yeah.
different company might respect your time a bit more. It might not be as stressful. And like you say, the working from home thing, it could just be that people are expecting more. I spoke to someone on a consultation and they just said like, they're checking up on me more because I'm at home, and I've got to hit this quota and I've got to do a certain amount of things, whereas when I was in the office it wasn't like that. So I think a lot more pressure is, I think she said she had like a tracking system, for a
Right.
computer so that they knew what she was doing day in, day out. And I think because people are working from home, companies are not trusting the employees to do the work. So then
Yeah.
they're putting measures in place for either you to continually report back in, or that they're going to track what you're doing to make sure that, you know, they're paying you for what you're doing. And that in itself can be a stress sometimes, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you all get tarred with the same brush, and like
Mm,
not you've always got like the person that spoils it for everybody else.
yeah.
But then when everyone gets tarred with the same brush and not treated like adults, that can be really, really hard to deal with as well. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, for
I mean,
sure.
I can understand where companies are coming from, but it's just a
Yeah.
case of, you know, like I said, if you must change jobs, you know, and I think a lot of people succumb to like the sunk cost fallacy where they're like, oh, well, I've worked at this company for X amount of years. Like, I've done that in the past. Like, I was kind of brought up where, oh, you worked in places for years and it was so much better if you had like 3, 4, 5 years in a place on your CV. You know, so the first place I worked at was like 3.5 years. And then it was like a year and a half. And I was like, right, I need to do at least 3, 4 years in this company. And no matter how long you invest in a company, they will still treat you like exactly the same, whether you've just done 6 months or you've done 6 years. Unfortunately, you know, that's just the way it is. And that was my experience going through like 17 years of bars and restaurants. Whether I'd worked there for 6 months or 6 years didn't really matter. Whether they were gonna, how they were gonna treat you or whatever. Like, it's like I've had my phone contract with O2 for like 20 years, but they're not going to treat me any better than a brand new customer that walks through the door, rather. You know, and it's the same. And we like to think that probably work's a bit different, but I just don't think it is these days. I just don't think companies do value you as such.
No. And I think that my dog's just going nuts. I think that we end up with people like in majority of jobs, if you left tomorrow, you'll be replaced next week.
Yeah.
Very, very quickly.
Oh,
And
yeah.
because of that, people you have to detach a little bit emotionally from it. Unless you're in a job, you know, where that's very difficult, you know, like first responders and anyone in care system, that's very hard to detach. But the other like 85% of the workforce aren't in jobs like that. And you just need to when you shut the laptop or you get in the car, that's where it stays.
Yeah.
And it's done.